Right, mate, we're on. Yes, people, welcome back to Process. Today we're joined by another very special guest, Mr. Karl Darlow, Newcastle United goalkeeper. Welcome to the podcast, mate.
Hi, mate. Nice to be here.
I know, nice to catch up and everything, because it's been a good few years since obviously back in the glory days when I was training with you back in the day. But it's nice to have you on, just talk about your kind of journey and your kind of upbringing through football, because you've had a decent career. Obviously, just turned 30 now, so it'd be nice to hear.
No, I know. hopefully it's going to. I know. Keep going up. Hopefully, yeah. And hit 30, and it's a little bit worrying, but goalkeeper, I've still got a bit of time left. Hopefully.
Yeah, plenty, mate. 10 years, hopefully, in the bag. Anyway, so like I said, I just want to talk about your journey. Go back to when you first started. Like, how did you get into goalkeeping? Everyone's got a little story about how they started being a goalkeeper.
Yeah, well, basically, I love football ever since I was born. Pretty much, I was obviously kicking the ball around and stuff like that. So, ended up training sessions and just little training sessions with like the kids and stuff at 6, 7. Ended up getting scouted by Aston Villa. Scout was there. They went to just like one of their little camps that you go to, played some games, and got asked to come on trial. So went on trial as a centre half to start off with, at 8 years old. Got signed as a centre half, and then obviously I went in nets for a couple of games, and it was probably the best decision, going in goal and staying in goal, I think. So they obviously recognised that I had a bit of a talent to goalkeeping, and I loved it as well, diving around on the floor. And as a kid, you just love getting in amongst it. So really kicked off from there, and then obviously from 8 years old, I just followed it all the way through at Villa till I was 16. So it was good to be there and develop technically and do everything that I needed to at a very good academy, to be fair.
Yeah. Who were your kind of role models when you were growing up, like goalkeeping wise, or just in general?
Role model, probably everyone would say Peter Schmeichel of my era. I'd say he was the one that was pushing boundaries and making saves that no one had seen before. So he was the one at the time, and he obviously joined Aston Villa at one point, which I was excited about, obviously, and towards the end of his career. But he was the one that you'd probably say, like from my era, that was one that everyone looked up to and saw as probably the one that was redefining goalkeeping and the way people were going about it. So yeah, it'd be him.
Yeah, definitely. We'll say I've talked to like a lot of lads who I've had on here about going into like academy setups when you're at a young age. Like you were 8 years old when you obviously got into it very, very young. Do you feel like you missed out on the boys' club aspect, or like the aspect of like enjoying football a little bit more, not being so serious? Because obviously when you're in that academy setup, I don't know what it was like obviously at Villa, but at Newcastle it was quite serious from a young age.
Yeah.
And like I spoke to Armour about it, and he's saying like it would have been nice to have a few more years at that boys' club level to enjoy football and kind of enjoy that experience, and then go into the serious side at a certain level. Do you feel the same way, or did you enjoy your time?
I don't know. Yeah, no, I enjoyed it always from the start, really. I think facilities wise and everything that we did, I know you're traveling around the country, experiencing different places and playing against the best of the other side. So I enjoyed that side of it as well. But like you say, there is massive pressure on it. I think obviously we're training Mondays and Wednesdays, and obviously Saturday, and then game on Sunday. So we were still being pushed at a young age, but obviously having to perform as well, knowing that you were at an academy and you were playing against the best. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than I think I would have done at a club, I think, to be honest with you. Because I think if you're at a club, yeah, you enjoy it and you enjoy the social part, but you still, ultimately, all you want to do is be playing at a professional club. So for me to be at a professional club and be doing that, I don't know. I think I really enjoyed being there and going through it that way. But I can see what you're saying too. I think there is a lot of pressure on young kids at academies, and need to be mindful of that, especially when kids get released at 13, 14 years of age and into nothing, or 16, and it just needs to be a bit careful on where they go from that side. But for me, it was always enjoying my football and enjoying being there, and we had a good side and a good team at the time. So yeah, it was nice to come through with players that were there for years, 4 or 5 years, and even longer. So yeah, I enjoyed that aspect of it.
Yeah, That's good, mate, because I think like a lot of kids probably, it depends how they deal with the pressure and how depends how they look at it. And like you mentioned, obviously getting released at a young age can be like detrimental, especially if it's kind of like, was it your like local team that you supported growing up, Aston Villa?
No, I'm from Northampton, so obviously that was a catchment area for Villa, about an hour away, just under an hour away. So they were able to come in and take lads from like Northamptonshire area, and there's a couple of lads that went from Northampton at a young age but didn't make it past like 10 years old or something like that. So, but it is a tough situation for kids to be in, and that's the way it is, and I don't think that will change anytime soon, to be honest.
Yeah. It's always going to be the same. It's quite a distance. So it was an hour away that you were kind of traveling.
Yeah.
How many
after school, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dad
my
did a few.
mum and my dad for so many. I'm the same, like an hour away.
Yeah, Dad did a few trawling journeys all around the country. So yeah, you can't thank him enough, can you? That's the thing. But then it's nice that for me, that it gets to the other side where he's excited to watch me play and see all the hard work did pay off, if you like. So, but it's one of them that you understand when you get older, I think, how much they did for you and how much they sacrificed to be able to support you and do all the driving and help you out as much as they can.
Yeah, definitely. I think the parents are a big part almost of your success. Like in any young lad or anybody who makes it for us football, the parents are a big part of it, especially when you don't realise it. Like you said, drop them off at training and stuff at night time. It's a big ask, especially when football is such a it's a high risk environment in terms of like you can get released, you can get let down, you can get injuries and stuff like that. So was there any doubt in your mind, or was there anything when you were younger, if you can remember, like that you were maybe like focusing on, right, I'm going to still study this at school so I can go to uni just in case, or was it always just like football's the one thing I'm just focusing on it? Yeah. Was it like when you sacked school off completely, or was it?
I never sacked school off, but I just never. Sound big-headed, but never in my mind did I not think I was going to make it. I just thought all the way through that I felt as if I was obviously taking it a year at a time, and I get contract, and then 16 there was no contract, and I was like, wow. So I was expecting to still be signed on at that age, but I was 5'6" at the time at 16. So it's I think that might have had something to do with it, but it was I don't know. I never felt like I wanted to do anything other than play football. I know a lot of people are like that, but I also felt like I was still one of the best of my age group in every year that we went through. So it was just a case of I don't know, just working hard and making sure that I did the most that I could to carry on and proceed throughout the journey of an academy, and then even through that onto the next stages.
Yeah. I think it is the best mindset to have, but like coming from my perspective kind of thing, obviously not completely making it all the way, you do have that mindset at the time, and you look back and think like there's so many other things that you could have done, but obviously you can't think like that.
Yeah.
Do you think that there is a very, very like fine balance between put everything into something, but then also understanding that if football doesn't work out, there is other kind of avenues and stuff? Like you talk about it, like young kids growing up. Is there anything that you would say to them? I don't know, you can't really say it because you said you had that mindset that you were just 100%. Like, you can't. Do you think that? What sort of balance do you think they have? Do you think you should always be thinking like, what if this doesn't happen and stuff like that? Do you think if you want to be the best of the best, you've got to have that tunnel vision? I'm just going to make it.
I always knew that even bad injuries or anything like that could have, I don't know, at 17, 18 years of age, put me back out and having to find something to do. But like I said, I got good grades in everything that I did at school. I always managed to keep a high level in my education. So I did know, probably in the back of my mind, without even thinking about it, that I would have something to fall back on without not with doubting myself, but thinking that, I don't know, is a certain type of security that would be there if I needed it. But my full focus was always just making it through and grafting, really. So
yeah, I know you got to be. It's obviously paid off, which is the main thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but like you say, I think whatever further education or different bits and pieces, if that's what interests different people, or they can have that to fall back on, I think it's massively beneficial, because you don't know, you might be the most talented, or you might be getting through age group stuff and then be let go, or a bad injury. So it's nice to know that you've got something in the background that you can fall back on, or other interests even that you might study to pursue in the future.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned briefly about your obviously getting released at Villa. Was it 16, like before the kind of scholarship age group? How did you deal with that mentally? What was kind of your thoughts going through that sort of period?
Just to get another club at the time. To be honest, I didn't. I was like I said, I was surprised, because I actually thought I'd done enough to get a scholarship through what I'd done, but for whatever decision they decided to make, they released me. So went from there, and thankfully the goalkeeping coach Eric Steele and Andy Quire that I had at Aston Villa were in contact with Steve Sutton at Nottingham Forest, who said, "I'll have a look at this lad." So I went over there, and thankfully Sutts was more than happy to have me, and that was it. I just went from there. So obviously thankful for having another opportunity to not just be pushed out of the way, but for obviously Eric and Andy for recommending me, and then Sutts for keeping me on and progressing me like he did into #1 goalkeeper at Forest.
Yeah. I see you've had a good little group of goalkeeper coaches there. I see you mentioned Eric Steele there as well. So you've had, coming through the ranks, you've had some good coaches.
That's a good one, yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to see that they were actually helping you out move different clubs. I think a lot of teams, when they get the 16 players get released, they're just left to, or even like at 18, they're just left to their own devices, which I think a lot of time why lads don't end up going on and like signing in other teams, or they just end up sacking it off for going to play like Sunday League or whatever it is. So it's nice to see that. Oh, don't worry, we're still going.
We're going.
Yeah, it's nice to see that clubs are actually helping you out. Do you think that was a very important thing for you in terms of seeing that, like, even though you got released, you've still got coaches that are backing you and they still want to see you progress? Was it a big confidence boost?
It was to be honest with you, it was a managerial change at the time when the contracts were up. So Eric left and Andy had both left. So they then very much on my side, desperate to get me another club, because on their recommendation, I think they told me now that they recommended that they sign me, but for whatever reason, the academy director decided he knew better than the two goalie coaches. So after that, we had Eric and Andy were both brilliant in terms of sorting me out and trying to find me a place that would suit me, and obviously putting a good name to myself and the ability that I had at the time.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of obviously signing like a scholarship, apprenticeship sort of thing there, how was your progression through the ranks there? Obviously, I know you went out on loan to a few teams. What was it like in terms of your first 2 years? Did you go on loan in your first 2 year scholars, or was it just playing in the 18s and then progressed afterwards?
Yeah, I played all the under 18 stuff, and at that time it was different to the under 23s than now. It was reserve team games where there were first team lads. So I learned a lot in them games, because we'd have probably 5 or 6 lads that weren't playing on the Saturday playing the reserve team, and I was playing at that like 17, 18, and playing against some good players from different teams that really helped my progression, I'd say. Then when it was right, obviously went out to Newport County at the age of 20, I think it was. I might have been 19, 20. Mm-hmm. So I'd already had a bit of a taste with the reserve team football in terms of it was proper men's football, and then going to Newport was even more of an eye opener in terms of they were down the bottom of the league, and knew that people were depending on staying up to keep their wages, and it was one of them where you realise what it meant to people on winning football matches and staying in the conference at the time was massive for them. So I was pleased to go and played 8 or 9 games and managed to help them avoid relegation. So it was brilliant experience. And then went back again and went out to Walsall after that. So yeah, it was good. It was good.
Did you feel much pressure as a young lad going out and loaning, obviously knowing that these lads are playing for like bonuses, they're playing to stay up in the league and stuff? Did you feel that pressure as soon as you went in, or was it kind of you just taking it as another game of football?
Yeah, no, it was. I didn't feel so much pressure of that. I think I didn't know what the standard was going to be like because I hadn't played professional football, so I didn't know how good it was going to be. But training wise, I was coping more than enough, and I knew that I was good enough to go in and do a job for them, which is all I wanted to do. I knew that Forest would be watching, and I knew that there's a big job to be done for them in terms of staying up. So I just wanted to do my best in terms of keeping everyone happy, if you like, and doing myself justice. And yeah, it was a big boost to go down there and do well in them games and come back the following season.
Mm-hmm. It seems like, obviously, apart from the little blip at Villa, you still had the coaches kind of backing you to go into another team. Seems that it's kind of been on like a smooth little curve. Was there any like periods when you were a young lad, or maybe on a few loan spells that you made, like maybe I know you had a poor run of form, or your confidence dropped, you made a mistake in a game or anything like that you can remember when you were younger?
The only real, not when I was younger. The only real time that I remember thinking we were in a bit of a mess here was when we won about 15 games or 20 games at Forest without winning. We started off brilliantly, and then we just couldn't buy a point or buy a win. So it was, that was the point. More team wise and confidence was low. That's the only time I'd say I really thought, God, like just give us a win or just give us some points because we're desperate here. But we had such a good start to that season, which made it even more difficult and strange. I think we won the first 8 games and then went on a run of like 15 or 20 games without a win, and we were still only about 11th or 10th because of our start. So yeah, that's the only time I can remember where I thought, oh, we're struggling. I'd made a few mistakes that year as well, which probably didn't help, but it was one that you learn from, and hopefully we won't be in that position again.
Yeah, touch wood, mate. It's the worst. It's the worst kind of place to be in, especially as a goalkeeper. Confidence is everything. Having obviously the manager's back and everything so important. How did you feel you got yourself out of it, or do you feel like it was just one of the things that like one game you got to win, you had a decent game, it's just you pick yourself up from there?
Yeah, I think it is. I think the harder you try, sometimes the worse it gets. But I think you churn, especially with the Championship, you're churning out so many games. You can get in a rut or you can get on a roll. I think when you look at us in that Newcastle, when we went up that season, you get on a roll and you win 4 or 5, like bang, 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 and it lifts you straight out of wherever you need to be or up further. But we were just on the other side of it where we just couldn't seem to hang on, or we would concede a last minute goal, and it was just, you just get yourself stuck in a rut. But I think eventually you if you dig in for long enough and you build your way back up, and then it's just small building blocks from there, I think, to get your confidence back and then just kick on. But everyone goes through it. It's nothing to worry about, I don't think, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's good that you're saying that kind of thing, because I think a lot, especially young lads, when the confidence goes, they're kind of thinking like, this is the end, like, I'm never going to get out of it. But it's just like the old saying, trust the process and just keep on kind of doing what you're doing, and then good things will come as long as you're doing your best. Do you think of anything like a particular coach, or like obviously when you had that period at Forest where you were struggling, anything that like a goalkeeper coach or I don't know, like a more senior player or manager has done to kind of help boost the confidence, to kind of give you that pick up when you're feeling a little bit low? Can you think of anything that helped you in times where you've had a bit of a drop of confidence?
Probably, I knew that I'd always be backed by my goalkeeping coaches, and I think they're the best people for you to go to, because they understand where you're at and what you're going through. They've seen it all before. That's the thing with it. They know where they've been at. They've seen the worst mistakes. Everyone has. I think once they get to a certain age, nothing shocks them anymore. So I think to confide in them and know that they're working with you, say day in day out, or once or twice a week, if you're not like a professional footballer, that they're the ones that can help you, and you can talk through it as long as each of you understand where you're at, and that you're trying to get out of a blip. I think they're the best people to be going to, and listen. As long as they listen to you in terms of what you feel you need, and you listen to them, I think you can build quite a strong bond with your goalkeeping coach in terms of getting out of these little blips, and obviously the same when things are going well, you stay with them as well, and they reap the rewards like you do.
Yeah, 100%. I think having that back, and I can think of times where I've been on, like, had a good little spell and stuff. You feel like you've got, no matter what's going to happen, you've always got your coach back, and you, knowing that they kind of are on your side gives you a boost. Anyway, it gives you the almost freedom to try something, or maybe try a pass that you wouldn't normally try, or maybe like just that back confidence, knowing that, like, even if I make a mistake, like I've had a keeper coach say, like, right, I want you to do this. It was like, I can't remember what it was, but it's something to do with high positioning. So if you're starting a little bit higher in the game, there's more chance of you obviously getting a cut back or something like that, or like a ball that's in behind. They literally said to me, if you get lobbed, we'll take it on the chin. Like, we want you to start high. So like little things like that, and just kind of say, like, right, if there's something like that happens, no, like, you're not to blame. Having that sort of backing does help massively, especially when you're younger, talking about confidence and everything. The times, like I said, where I remember when I was feeling good, that you're playing with a bit of freedom, is when your coach is backing you, positive. Even if you make a little error, he's like, go, that's fine. He's not on your case straight away. I think of times when I've had like a few bad passes, or like, I don't know, not made a save that I should have saved, and you've got a coach at the sideline who's yelling at you, you got to do this, got to do that. It's the worst thing. You just can't, all you're thinking about is, you can see them in the corner of your eye, and they're just thinking, like, this isn't helping me at all.
No, not during the game. I think you know how you're playing during a game, or how you've played after a game. You don't need someone yelling and bawling at you afterwards, do you, to say, yeah, you've had a bad game. I think you know if you've had a bad game. Likewise, if you had a good game, you know you've had a good game. So it's sometimes you're best judge. I think you know yourself whether you've done well or you could have done things better, and obviously they help with putting different things right. But I think mentally, you know whether you've played well or you've played poorly.
Yeah, 100%. Have you ever had a situation where you've had a coach who's like that, who's like on the touchline during games and just yelling orders at you, yelling things at you? Have you ever had that situation? You don't have to like say who it is, but how did you? If you've not had that, or if you have, how did you deal with it during games?
Yeah, I think more team-wise, I've had managers that will shout and ball. But I think after the initial shock of the first 5 games or so, when they start yelling at you, ends up being white noise, doesn't it? And I think you notice that more and more with players that play near the manager, say on the right-hand side, when the dugout's close to them, they end up switching off, and it has an adverse effect. So I think there's times for it to be done and times for it not to be done. But more often than not, you just try and absorb the information that you think, yeah, okay, he's making sense here. I'll take that on, or otherwise it's just get on with it and try and distance it as much as possible and concentrate on your own game.
Yeah, it's probably a similar thing to kind of like getting abuse from people behind the fans, because how did you find that, like, starting off, obviously coming from Forest playing, was there many fans at the reserve games and stuff back then?
Yeah, there would be, but not as bad as like when I was at Newport. You'd have, it's worse when you have less fans, when there's like 1,000 there or 500 fans there, because you hear every word and you know who's shouting it, but you can't do anything about it. So I think it's almost worse than playing in big stadiums where it gets drowned out almost, or if a crowd's not as full, you can hear each individual abuse. So, but no, you have to laugh it off, don't you? I mean, if you're shouting at people that are half your age, and you need to sort your life out, I think.
I've had that before. You're getting absolutely abused, saying this, that, and the other, and you're just thinking, like, you're like
someone's
60,
dad.
70, 60. Like, honestly, I'm just a young lad who in goal just trying to play football, and like, you've got nothing better to do. But like I said, the best way to do it is just like think about the situation that you're actually in. You've got this like 70-year-old bloke behind you who's calling you. Even like, well, to be fair, like you get like 12, 13, 14-year-olds doing this, shouting the same things that they shouldn't really be saying. Just got to think, like, who are they to say sort of stuff? Like you said, laugh it off.
Yeah.
I think a lot of young lads, if it's the first situation, it can get to the head and can probably affect them a little bit. But if you think about what's the situation you're actually in, yeah, exactly. I know they're actually making a fuss about you. You're the one on the pitch at the end of the day. So
exactly, they're paying to watch you.
Exactly, that's what you got to think about. I like that. I like that one. So yeah, obviously you finding the higher that you go in terms of playing in front of crowds, would you say it's harder or easier? Because, well, one, obviously there's a lot more people there, so there probably is a lot more pressure, but then you can't hear the individual shouts as much. Would you say you kind of just get used to the increase in fans and increase in spectators and stuff like that? Or is there anything
definitely.
you had to do to,
No, I think with my personal career, the way it's gone from Newport with 1,000 to Walsall with, I don't know how many it holds actually, 10, 15,000, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Forest 30,000 to Newcastle 50,000. It's been like a gradual increase, and that step up's not been major from like 1,000 to 50,000, which you obviously get the cup games where you'll end up playing in front of big crowds. But in terms of the way my career's progressed, it's kind of been steady steps each time it's increased. So it's worked out well for me.
Yeah. I was going to say, so do you find that you just kind of adapt to the situation? Like, all right, you go from 10,000 to 20,000. All right, this now becomes a norm after a few games. It just kind of, it's not like,
massively.
It's not as if like you went from 1,000 to 50,000. It's like, whoa, this is a big,
kind of,
have you ever been in that
jump.
situation? Yeah, have you ever played in like somewhere and you've been like, whoa, this is like, I don't know, like anywhere you've played?
No, probably the main one would have been my Forest debut when I went from Walsall, who probably didn't get that many fans at the time, so there would have been 5,000 to 10,000 maybe in there, to 32,000 packed out at Forest, and I think that's probably one of the times where it was a big occasion anyway, because it's my debut, and then obviously the sheer number of fans again would have a little bit of an impact. So that's the only time I probably really noticed it. And St James's Park as well is obviously massive. So I think the first time you play up here, it's a bit of a shock as well. But nothing major.
Nothing major. Just £52,000. Nothing too bad. So how do you prepare mentally for games? Do you do anything beforehand? Anything at all? Rituals? Anything?
No, not normally rituals. I normally just, as long as my training week's been good and I know that I've put in work on the training ground and I know that I've covered everywhere that I feel I'm confident in my game, or then I'm more than happy. Then obviously after that, it's just getting yourself mentally prepared to go into the game and know what your expectations are, where you want to be, and what you want to achieve really from that game. So I think more on the mental side is just being prepared to be at your best again, and getting yourself and getting your body in the right state to be able to go and perform to your highest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think a lot of people can get too caught up in the rituals. I think I've done a podcast with a lad last week in Egypt. He said because he's played in Italy, he said a nice Italian court. He's like some Italian player told him it, but it literally just means that people get too caught up in like rituals and stuff like that. All that happens is like you're in control of what you do, kind of thing. So if you like you said, if you prepare right during the week and you know you've done everything possible, then on the pitch things should obviously just go right. So.
Yeah,
some people do. Some people do like the routine. Have you seen any like people stressing with routines and stuff over the years?
No, not so much. But I think people do it probably behind closed doors where no one can see it. And I think obviously, if you do something and then for whatever reason you get knocked off of it, I think that can affect your game, because then mentally you're thinking, oh, I haven't done this week. Whereas, if you're in the mindset where it's not so set in stone, as long as you're in and around that basis, you know you're gonna be where you want to be mentally, I think, for the start of the game.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's about, because there's too many things that could go wrong, and if it doesn't go wrong, you have a bad game. You're going to be blaming it on that as well. So it's all down to your performance at the end of the day. So as a keeper, like obviously there'll be times in games, or even at the start of games, where you don't have a lot of action. What kind of helps you settle into the game? Like obviously, ideally, it would be lovely to get a touch of the ball within like 1 minute, and then that's you kind of like. Is there anything that helps you kind of settle? Is it just kind of waiting for that first touch? That helps you settle.
Yeah, I don't think about it too much. The only times I ever do is it goes past like the 10-minute mark, I think, and I think, oh, I'm not touching the ball here. But then, I think sometimes it's quite reactive goalkeeping in terms of shots and bits and pieces. So you can't really go out your way to go and touch the ball like a centre midfielder or centre back would say. And demand the ball or get in a position to get the ball. You do have to wait and you do have to be patient. But then it's just doing that thing well. I think as soon as it comes to you, then whatever it might be, just be ready for it and do it well, and then you're up and running to go through into the game. So don't get too stressed about not touching the ball earlier.
Yeah.
And I only started to think, oh, I've not touched it here, which is a bit odd sometimes, but nothing too stressful.
Yeah, I'm sure you're quite busy at Newcastle, mate. Don't worry. I'm sure that doesn't happen too much. Yeah. Not say too much about that. But like you said, I think you mentioned it before about thinking too much about things. When I'm playing, if I'm thinking too much about the game and what's going on and what my touch is going to be like, then like that's when something bad goes wrong. That's when you make a mistake and stuff. Just trying to be as relaxed as possible and just be present in the game is probably the only thing you can really say.
Yeah, massively, yeah.
So in terms of, obviously, we kind of jumped over it, but joining Newcastle, how did they like come about? Did you? Cause I know you came and then you went back on loan. What was your kind of mindset going into obviously joining a big club like Newcastle? I know Forest is still a big club, but Premier League level, obviously a lot of history, a lot of stuff like that. Did you go into the mindset in terms of thinking, I want to be the number one as soon as I come back on loan kind of thing? Or was it just kind of one of them things where see what happens?
Yeah, more that I knew. I think I was still young for a goalkeeper to be coming up here, and Tim Krul had obviously been playing for however many years up here as the number one. So it was more a case of coming up and really feeling it out probably for the first season and seeing like where I'm at compared to Premier League players and watching Premier League games, travelling around watching Premier League games, which is good, I think, to bed yourself into it a little bit. And but I've obviously I still had aspirations of playing and wanting to be part of the team. But I think coming up here, you have to know the situation. I knew the situation was that Tim was number one at the time, and fully supported and wanted to learn from him because he'd done such a good job for the club for so many years. So it was more about training with better quality goalkeepers, I suppose, and players, and adjusting to that, and then taking it from there. There was no real major thing in my head saying I need to come in and be number one. I just took it as it was, and wanted to prove myself throughout training and take it from there.
Because there's been a lot, obviously, long periods where a lot of goalkeepers get the periods where they're going to be in that number 2 or even like a number 3 position for a long period of time. Like, even if you're training well and stuff like that, you might not get your chance. How did you cope with that mentally, or was it just one of them things, like, to be fair, like you mentioned, just in terms of just kind of feeling that out and then training, doing everything you can during the week and waiting for your chance? Does it get frustrating as well at times, kind of being in that number 2, travelling around?
Yeah, of course. I think you want to play every game that you can. So if you're training well every week and nothing at the end of it was tough, and it's just always waiting for an opportunity, which was out of my control in a way because he's had the shirt, Martin, obviously, and was playing really well week in, week out, and there was no way he was going to get dropped and wasn't picking up injury. So it was a case of waiting for an opportunity to come in, and then know that I'd worked hard and would be prepared for that, because it could have been at any moment that he got injured or had a lack of form or whatever. But it was just biding my time and waiting for that chance to come in and try and prove that I can be a good goalkeeper for this club.
Yeah. We were talking about, because I remember when Martin came in, I remember at the time, it would have been frustrating, because I was thinking at the time this must be frustrating for Carl, because Martin came in, I think the week before you got man of the match at Palace, I think. I was thinking at the time, like, that would do my head in. Like, you've done nothing wrong. It's just one of them things that it happens in football. Like, they bring someone else in and maybe like, I don't know, whatever. There's so much politics and football and stuff like that. Someone comes in and just goes straight into the squad. How did you cope with that? Obviously, you don't have to go into too much detail about it, but in terms of like the frustration and everything like that, how did you cope with that one? You just say to yourself,
it's tough.
Well, I've done all I can.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was just a frustrating period of time. But then just got back to the training ground and worked hard to try and get back in the team, but obviously didn't happen. So it was for whatever reason, and that's about as much as I can say.
Yeah, no, mate. At least you didn't spit. At least you didn't spit your dummy out and start doing all this that and the other. But you got to keep it. No, it's fair. That's fair enough. To be fair, because it is one. There's going to be so many situations when players come in, like especially at the level they are at, when players are like teams are buying players in for ridiculous money and stuff like that, and they are expected to play no matter who's playing beforehand, whether they've got man of the match, whether they've done really well. Again, it can be frustrating with the politics of football, whatever level it is. Never mind the Premier League lower down. So I think, like you said there, if that does happen, it's just about like you obviously hold your hands up and say, right, I've done everything I possibly can in this situation. I've just got to keep doing what I'm doing. Maybe have a quiet word with the manager or something like that. But I think having a cool head about it's the best way to go about it.
Yeah, and then obviously, just keeping your training going. I think because at the end of the day, the only person you're going to affect is yourself in the long term. If you start being overweight or not training as hard as you should be, then there's nothing to say that he wasn't going to get injured in that first game or the second game. And if you're not right, then you have to go back in. You're going to be detrimental towards yourself. So I think it's professional attitude and making sure that you carry on and do the right things so that you are ready in case you have to go back in and what would be a difficult situation after coming out of the team, but it might well happen that you're back in. You have to go and prove yourself again.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say another point as well, like if there is that situation where, especially as a keeper, when someone comes in front of you, you can't kind of have any hard feelings towards that the goalkeeper who's going. And you, at the end of the day, if he's starting, luckily normally the GK union, as we call it, is kind of quite tight anyway, because it's a difficult position to be in. But then if someone's ahead of you and they're starting, I think as a keeper, you've still got to do everything you can, like during the week in the warm up before the game, to help that keeper. You can't be like having hard feelings or like blaming him and not, like, for example, in training, like not serving balls properly at the other keeper who's starting. You've got to be professional, like you said, and just keep going about your own business and kind of represent yourself in a good way, rather than spitting the dummy out and kind of losing that professionalism, and just keep doing what you do, which I think you've done. And obviously you've got your chance now to the season. I think you've been obviously had a worldie against Tottenham. And then just progressing. You had a pen save the other night, didn't you?
Yeah. You forget about that.
Yeah, forget about that. Nobody cares about that when you get beat. I still save the penalty.
No, it's been good. I've had a good start, so just need to carry on working and like I say, it's goalkeeping. You never know, do you? So you just carry on doing the things that you've been doing, and as long as you can look yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and say, I've trained as hard as I can and done the best that I could on the pitch, and you can't have any regrets, I don't think.
Yeah, definitely. Goalkeeping is one of the hardest positions. Like, personally, in my opinion, I think goalkeeping is probably a solid, maybe 80% mental, and the rest is just technical and stuff, because there's so much pressure. Just like literally, if we make a mistake, it's a goal at the end of the day. It's in straight away. So talking about obviously ups and downs of football, there's been obviously being at Newcastle, it's always ups and downs with the fans. Obviously, they can turn on your back 100%. How do you deal with, say, like criticism in the media? Obviously, at a high level, there's a lot more kind of coverage of games. There's a lot more pressure, and you got social media, Twitter, commentators on Sky Sports and stuff. How do you personally deal with any criticism, like from anybody, fans, social media and stuff? Or do you just kind of block it out?
Yeah, no, I think only more recently, probably the last few years, that I think as we've got through it, that you start to understand how to deal with that type of thing and make it more of a motivation to go out and prove people wrong, or to do what you can to stop people saying different bits and pieces. But I think it's part of growing up, and I think obviously with the social media platforms now, you just have to be a bit careful with where you're looking or what you're on at the times. I think before games, I'll try and just stay off of social media and just concentrate and zone in on matches, because it doesn't matter too much. Well, it doesn't matter at all really towards your own performance what people are saying about you, as long as mentally you're ready, and like you say, you're in a strong place before you start the game. Then you just need to block it out and just not let it affect you, which is easier said than done. I think, especially with young lads, young players coming through that might make debuts or might play here and there and get hammered afterwards. It's a tough platform to be reading about yourself, and especially with the younger generation reading it constantly, and it can affect people mentally, definitely. So it's just, I think using it as a motivation, probably one of the best things that you can do, and make yourself stronger, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the good thing that I think's probably helped you is your progression, like we talked about in terms of going to different teams, different stadiums and stuff. Is it's been very gradual through the ranks, and I think when a lot of players struggle is the likes of the ones who maybe come from academy setup and straight in with the first team, because they went from like nothing to everything, and then all the attention's on them. If they make a mistake, everything's on them. Whereas you've probably had that nice progression, which I think is kind of each level that you've played at is kind of built up a little bit more resilience, a little bit more mental toughness. Kind of set you up. Like, you can tell now that you're like, if anybody was to put something on social media or I say something about you, you're probably quite like, kind of like not emotional to it. It doesn't affect you at all, which I think is a good thing, which stands you in good stead, because your career, especially at Newcastle, it's been very kind of, and you don't know if you're playing or not playing. Obviously, if you've done well at a certain point and then you've been took out of the team for whatever reason or another, you've got to be kind of very much emotionless at times towards it and just kind of keep on cracking on, which I think, like I said, stands you in good stead, which I think a lot of young lads will probably find very, very difficult. Which is obviously, like I said, it's good to see kind of thing. So I think a lot of young lads can kind of take that to what you've been through, especially as a goalkeeper, and kind of put it into perspective in their life, which is definitely very good. So one thing I wanted to talk about in terms of like mental struggles, I know you briefly talked about the spell at Forest where confidence in the whole team was kind of struggling. Was there any other period where it was just more personally you yourself in terms of confidence, or you felt like you weren't yourself on the pitch or anything like that? Was there any moment that you can think of, even at Newcastle or at a spell, even like a few games where you were a little bit lower after a few games or anything like that?
There would have been, but nothing that really, I don't know, with me, I try and blank it out afterwards for some reason. I don't know. I deal with a lot of things mentally, like quite internally, and deal with them, and then I move on. And then that's it. Like they're just gone. Yeah. So I couldn't tell you like a period of time where I'd say like, mentally, I really struggled here, or mentally I really struggled there. I probably have, but that's just the way I go about dealing with it, because I don't know. I don't like to talk out about it, and I know a lot of people don't. But I manage it. I manage to manage with it myself for whether it's a day or a week or whatever, and then always get over it and go for if it's like football wise. I always think, well, I've got another game around the corner, so I'll go and do it in that one, and that's it. And then I'll move on. So I couldn't pinpoint or tell you exactly what games or after what period, because I don't know. I've managed to forget it somehow. I think that's something I've probably built up as well. It's probably not a good sign. Yeah. Lucy goes mental about my memory all the time, so I think I've probably managed to be quite good and quite laid back in terms of dealing with stuff, and then letting it go, and that's it. I'll just move on and take the next week. So that's the way. That's my own personal way of dealing with things, and that's how I am. So I'm quite happy.
I know it's like a blessing, but also a curse at the same time. Being very emotionless. But I think to be a goalkeeper, especially at the top level, you've got to have that. Like, there's so many kind of high-profile footballers who are making big errors and stuff like that. Not just on the pitch, but you can see it now off the pitch quite a bit. Like, even if you're making out something on social media, something with a girlfriend or whatever it is, like, you're going to be criticised for it. So I think you've got to have it, or else you're going to struggle. Which is like.
But there's obviously everyone has their own different way. I mean, I don't know. You're probably you're probably different to me, and everyone's different. But that's like personally, that's the way I go about things. And then if it helps for other people to talk out about it or speak to a friend, like I've had lads come and speak to me about like mentally being like having problems, and I chat to them all day long. Like I understand that side of it. It's just that I have my own different way of dealing with like my own sort of mental doubts or whatever it might be. So
yeah. No, that's good, mate. That's good to see. Anyway, so how do you switch off from football? Do you feel like you need to kind of, when you're away from football, you want to completely switch off? I saw the Armour about it. He was the same, just saying when he's away from football, he's found over the years the more important is to switch off from football at times, and it not being your whole life and like watching 5 games on a Sunday after you played on a Saturday. Yeah. Do you kind of like that switch off? Do you still like to still watch the games and stuff and stay involved?
Yeah, no, I will. Yeah, I will watch games, but not loads and loads. I'll watch, pick and choose ones that I look through the week and think, oh, I want to watch that, and then I'll go and tune into that. But I won't like smash out the whole Super Sunday of like 4 or 5 games in a row. I'll pinpoint games that I want to watch, or goalkeepers even that I want to watch and learn from, or think that I might pick up a thing or two from and take it from there. But switching off wise, I'll come back and then I don't know. I play quite a lot of golf, obviously, and then in the winter we'll just be the PlayStation, I think, and box sets. So it's just, but it's important to come back and switch off, because it's an intense amount of time that you're in training, switched on, and if you take that in throughout the week, mentally you'll be drained by the time you get to the game, which is the last thing you want. You normally try and mentally switch on towards the game, like I say, Thursday, Friday, going into the Saturday game, and think, right, I want to do or visualize this or do this and do that. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to do, and take it from there, rather than having the whole week of like building up. I'd rather just smash it out through there, and then bang, you're off again. So that's my own way of dealing with it. Yeah.
So have you worked with a psychologist or anything in the past, or has it all just been kind of like for yourself?
Yeah, all through myself. I think I know myself and I know my body, so I manage myself. I mean, clubs have psychologists, but for me, I don't feel much benefit from them, if I'm honest. I don't know. I might do if I had a load of sessions, or I was forced to have lots of sessions. I might well do. I don't know, but my personal way of going about it is to deal with it myself and manage different bits and pieces the way I need to, and the way that I think I can, and the way that I think's right. So that's my own way of going about it.
Yeah, so you can tell whatever like path you've been on, whatever it is, you've built up this resilience, which I think, like I've mentioned before, if young lads can build that same sort of resilience, it can help them massively in terms of their career. So one last thing is, what sort of advice would you give to any young, we'll talk specifically goalkeeping, any young goalkeeper coming up through the ranks, kind of what little bit of advice would you say to them?
Always enjoy it. I think always enjoy football, and always work as hard as you can to develop what you want to be and where you want to turn into. I think it's good for young kids to have goals and to try and get to different bits and get to different places. So there's always something to aspire to, or be motivated to work towards. So I think that's important, and just enjoy it and enjoy the work, because it's football. It's there to be enjoyed, isn't it? That's the main thing that gets lost throughout all of it. I think, especially like you say, going back to academy days, I think the fun element needs to stay in. And remember, the kids at the end of the day, like whatever age, if you're working with 8-9-year-olds, then just make sure they enjoy the football and continue to develop them at the same time. I think that they're the most important things.
Yeah, whenever you enjoy anything you do, that's when you're at your best. Like I said, when I look back to times where I've played good football to when I've enjoyed it, it just feels natural. Didn't have to think about anything. So enjoyment's massive, and what anything that you do, definitely. So did you have a look at the 3 questions I sent you? Right.
Yeah, I haven't got an answer for the first one.
Have you not?
I've got no one that I want to come to my dinner party.
Anyway, I just want to sit in my own have my food and go to bed.
Yeah, quite happy. I'll sit on my own and beer. The only people I'd have is family, and I'd be quite happy. I've got nothing really. I was having to think about it, but I don't know.
No one.
No.
Hey mate, you can
I'm
say
quite,
family.
I'm quite happy in my little bubble with my family and friends, and that's it. But yeah, so yeah, I'll say family for that.
Well, I'm hyped with that, mate. I'll take that answer. I like that answer. And then the second one's obviously people you'd want to train with. So 3 people, football wise.
Yeah, I think right now.
Or you could even go in. I was going to say, or you could go in the gym because obviously background as well. You could say if you want somebody in the gym that you want to train with, you could add them in as well. You can keep the football if you want to. You can keep the football if you want to as well. Stick the football.
Yeah, I'm good. So I've just went goalkeepers. So the ones that are probably at the minute are like Oblak. I'd say he's probably been one of the best in the world now for the last 5 years. Athletic and the way he plays, I think would be interesting to see how he trained. To Stegen as well. He's probably been one of the best in the world for the last few years, at least as well. Agile and quick and great feet. So I'd like to, be with him. And then Edison I've gone for as well. So I'd go with them 3 as the 3 goalies that I think would you'd learn a lot off in a training session or training sessions from them 3 and see what sort of stuff they get up to and how they develop and what they do in their training sessions. Yeah.
No, it's solid 3. And the last one thing you'd say to yourself 5 years ago.
5 years ago, I'd have been 25. I've always gone through the same sort of motto that I think everything will be all right and everything will work itself out the way that you go about it and the way you want it to be. So that's sort of a life motto rather than the 5 years type thing. But yeah, everything will be okay. It'll figure itself out in one way or another. That's the type of thing that I tend to go with and look to live my life by, really.
Yeah, just happy-go-lucky sort of thing, and life will just kind of, as long as you do the work.
Quite laid back and believe in yourself and believe in like the process, like you said before, and that everything that you do and you work towards will eventually be rewarded. And that's the sort of way I go about it, really, which is
nice.
Quite chilled.
quite chilled, mate. I like it. I know. I like that.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. There we go. It's been an absolute pleasure. We're going to say we have to give a shout out to Mr. Jason Batch at Avenue Barbering. I don't know, when did you get the trim last? Because mine's not fresh anymore. You'll be disappointed that I haven't done mine. You'll be very disappointed that I haven't done mine. I've just had a shower. So sorry, Batch.
Didn't even make an effort for me, did you?
Nah, I'm sorry, mate. I've just put my hoodie on and then that's it. I'm happy to go. Look, you just chill. I'm chilled out as well. But yeah, thanks for coming on, mate. I appreciate you coming on talking.
No, it's good.
Everybody,
enjoyed it.
I'll leave your social media and stuff. If anybody wants to message you, they can message you. Because I always say to people, if there's any questions or anything they want to ask myself or anybody, just fire them away. But thanks for coming on, mate. Appreciate it.
No, pleasure. Brilliant, mate. Thank you very much.
Cheers.